said before and I'll say it again, man is Disney having a rough year. Lowest MCU opening ever. Yikes. As you may recall, I didn't really care for the original Captain Marvel. I didn't hate it, but I thought it was pretty boring and even a little pandering. I didn't get too much into WandaVision, but I guess Rambeau in the series was fine, I guess? I don't know, she didn't leave that much of an impression on me. But then I really liked Ms. Marvel, which yes, at times could be a little Disney Channel-ish, but the style of the show and the energy of the main character I thought brought a lot of freshness to it. So that's a character I like, a character I don't like, and a character I have no opinion on. I guess I didn't really know what to make of the movie from the trailers, apart from, yeah, like everybody said, it did look like a Disney Plus movie. But I'm not gonna lie, after I started hearing the reviews, I weirdly got more excited for it. Oh, not because the reviews were good, quite the opposite. Some people were calling this a disaster, like the worst Marvel movie ever made. And it's not from those people that, you know, always have those thumbnails that have like an evil Mickey Mouse on or something like that. It was from people who usually look at something objectively. And I was intrigued by this. But then I'd also hear people say, it's okay, passable at best. Like, I certainly didn't know anyone who loved the movie, but I knew some people that thought it was fine enough. And after finally watching it, I hate doing this fence-sitting but I do honestly see where everybody is coming from. My personal take is, the movie is bad, but it's not the kind of bad that really annoys me too much. It's gonna sound weird, but the best film I can compare it to is Five Nights at Freddy's. A lot of critics absolutely hated that film, and I was more on the side of, it's bad, but there's like half a good film in here. Like, it almost works. I could see how it could work. So on the one hand, I can definitely see how some people would say, this is fine, it's passable, it's okay, but yes, for the mistakes both this and Five Nights at Freddy's make, it's incredibly easy to see why so many would also hate this. And while there are several issues with the movie, the number one problem is very easy to point out. The editing. The editing is atrocious. Like, top 10, some of the worst I've ever seen. All throughout the movie, I was constantly asking, wait, when did that character show up? Wait, where are we now? Wait, where did that character go? Wait, this character is this character now? What, did that character even land? What's she doing in the middle of the town? In a movie where people keep switching places literally in a millisecond, you need a phenomenal editor on this, and either that person was there originally and Disney kicked them out, or there was just a bad one at the start. The movie feels like it's supposed to be a half hour longer, and then somebody came in and said, nope, cut out 30 minutes, and it hurts everything. There's a lot of that bad ADR where somebody might turn their head, or we get a far away shot and somebody suddenly explaining all this exposition. There's emotional moments that just come out of nowhere and have no build-up whatsoever. And I think it doesn't help that the film does not have much of a visual language. I don't remember what any of these places look like. They travel from world to world, place to place, and I can't tell you one detail about one location in terms of how it looks. But with that said, I can't say I was ever bored, and I can't say I was ever annoyed. In fact, if anything, sometimes the editing has a little bit of that Eternals feel, like it's just so bad and so out of nowhere self-important that I did kind of chuckle one or two moments. But even outside of the irony, there are a few things I enjoyed. I'm sure I'm not the only one to say Kamala Khan comes out of this pretty much unscathed. It makes sense, she's the most interesting out of all of them, she brings his real life and energy to the movie. All the other actors have what I can only describe as a half performance. And it doesn't mean anyone is half-ing it, I don't mean that. I mean, everybody has half a piece of the puzzle and the other half is missing. For example, Rambeau is fine, she's acting okay, but I just don't know that much about her and they don't give her much of an identity. Brie Larson is definitely better this time around compared to the other times I've seen her play the character. She still does most of the comedy good, and some of the serious moments work out okay. But the other serious moments, I don't know. It kind of reminds me of old school Kevin Costner, like maybe in this person's head there's just a totally different interpretation of what sounding tough and heroic sounds like. But a lot of people liked old school Kevin Costner and a lot of people like Captain Marvel, so I don't know, I just never followed either. The villain, played by Zawe Ashton, got a lot of flack for being another boring Marvel villain, like the ones from the early days. And I have to disagree. Oh, not that she isn't written like one of the most boring villains, I mean, that is absolutely true. But I've never seen an actress try so hard to find an identity with absolutely nothing to work with. Every second she's giving these crazy eyes, she's sneering, she's snarling, she's saying lines in the strangest, most over-the-top way, putting pauses at the weirdest moments. Imagine that boring bad guy from Guardians of the Galaxy, but the facial expressions of Anna Top the whole time. She's single-handedly the worst and best thing in the movie. I was always entertained by her. Once in a while, there's a unique idea that sparks a little life into the film. Scenes where kittens have to eat people in order to save them. To the song Memory from Cats is a little unique. They go to a planet where their language is song, which is actually so clever, I can't believe it hasn't been done before. Like, there's definitely movies and shows where people go in and out of song, and they're like, oh, this is a weird way to communicate, but literally every word is a song? I can't believe I haven't seen that before. I'm not saying this is the first one to do it, but it might be the first major production to do it, and it is a little fun and unique, and I'm not gonna lie, if I saw this in something like Thor, Love and Thunder, I'd probably be annoyed by it because there's already too much of that, but here, in a movie that drastically needed more energy, I found it very welcomed. And yeah, at times, them switching places with their powers is also a really cool addition. But yeah, for a film that does throw so much at you, so much talking, so much exposition, so much explaining, it's also really, really underwhelming. When it got to the climax, I actually kind of refused to believe it was the climax. I mean, a part of me was happy, like the film's not very long, but I was also like, wait, no, that can't be it. That was so nothing. This is a Marvel movie? Like, a Marvel movie that was released in theaters and that's what we're given? And again, whenever they had to do like the big emotional moments, like, oh man, these people mean so much, and the connections and the relationships and stuff, it's comically empty. I feel like this is the Marvel movie you put on in the background when you're getting work done. Because that's the thing, I could follow it just enough to get what was going on, though I didn't really know much about the details. I was constantly asking about the details, but I still got the general gist fine. So I can definitely see why some people would say this is totally okay, it's passable, but if you're someone that really likes to study the epic size of Marvel, the editing, the effects, the pacing, the planning, like the anti-Martin Scorsese, like you really see Marvel as just super cinema and this amazing achievement, yeah, you're gonna hate this. Personally, I really enjoy Marvel films and find it really impressive they've come as far as they have for this long. But none of them are my favorite movies. I think maybe Guardians 2 and Infinity War I went back and watched a few times, but even though I greatly enjoy them and appreciate them, I don't put them on a lot. There are scenes I'll watch over and over, like the end of Endgame or some action sequences, but it never quite had the hold on me I think it did for a lot of other people. But again, I do really enjoy them. I've seen them all, and I think it's phenomenal they pulled them off as well as they have. But because I'm not really that obsessed with them and I don't really study them or anything like that, a film like this doesn't bother me as much. But I totally acknowledge it could really bother you. I think it's similar to like my thoughts on Moulin Rouge. I hate that movie. It just has those tropes and cliches I hate, but a lot of other people see them too and they just overlook them because they like everything else about it. And that's totally legit. I can't say I like this movie, but it didn't annoy me. It didn't get under my skin. It honestly gave me roughly what I thought a movie like this would be like at this point in time in the MCU, which, as a lot of people have pointed out, hasn't been doing that great. There is an end credit sequence that I won't spoil, but I will admit does give me a little excitement for what might be coming next. If you know what I'm really into, you know I want to see the MCU tackle this. And yes, while the effects in that scene and pretty much the whole movie weren't that great, I go to see MCU movies, just comic book movies in general, for the characters, for the ideas, for the spectacle. The spectacle doesn't have to look real, it just has to look impressive. And the Marvels is definitely not impressive. If you're willing to just completely turn your mind off and just listen to some good old-fashioned MCU tropes, this is good enough. But if you're hoping to see the MCU finally pull themselves out of a rut, suffice it to say, this is no Marvel.